Buongiorno, it's Color Girl. Well, I made it to one of my most favorite places in the world, Italy. And here I am. I'm actually staring at the next work of art. I'm lying on the floor here, if you can't tell. And I'm looking up at a work of art that I want to show you. It's one of the most greatest works of art in the world. But before I show you this work of art, I want to tell you about the artist. His name was Michelangelo. He was born in Italy in 1475. And some would argue that he is the greatest artist that ever lived. Now, Michelangelo lost his mother at an early age, so he was sent to live with a family of stonecutters. Perhaps being surrounded by stone was the reason that he wanted to become a sculptor. Now, Michelangelo's father saw that he had some talent, so when he was 13, he sent him to apprentice with a well-known artist in a city called Florence. Now, Florence is a very important city at the time because it was the heart of a movement called the Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth, and it was a time when people became interested in architecture, painting, poetry, and sculpture. It was a rebirth after the Dark Ages. Over the years, Michelangelo became an incredible artist, but he especially loved sculpture. He could take a block of marble and carve it into something so realistic that it almost looked like it was breathing. A very powerful and wealthy man at the time, Lorenzo de' Medici, commissioned, that means when you hire an artist to make something for you, he commissioned Michelangelo to come live at his palace and create works of art for his family. Now, word got around about this amazing new artist, and soon the most powerful ruler of the church, Pope Julius II, asked Michelangelo to come to Rome to sculpt a tomb for him. This was a dream job for Michelangelo. He was very excited to get started. So he moved to Rome and he started working on this tomb. But all of a sudden, the Pope changed his mind and asked him to paint the ceiling of a chapel inside the Vatican. Michelangelo was a sculptor. Imagine if you play second base and all of a sudden somebody asks you at the last minute to pitch. Yeah, Michelangelo was freaking out. But he rose to the challenge, and he spent 4 years painting the ceiling of the Sistine chapel, and some would say it is the most incredible work of art ever done. Are you excited to see it? Okay, I'm going to show you. All right. It's so amazing. This is the Sistine chapel, or the Capella Sistina. It's just incredible. Now, the Pope forced Michelangelo to paint this ceiling, even though Michelangelo was a sculptor. But he did allow Michelangelo to choose the subject he was going to paint. Now, remember, the Sistine Chapel is part of the Vatican, which is where the Pope lives and rules from. There were already some paintings along the side of the chapel, here and over here. One side depicted the life of Jesus, and one side depicted the life of Moses. Well, Michelangelo wanted to stay with stories from the Bible, so he chose the story of Genesis for the ceiling. Now, the story of Genesis is the story of the beginning of the world. It took Michelangelo 4 long years to paint this ceiling. 4 years. And those years were not without some serious drama. First of all, the Pope was a very difficult boss, and he and Michelangelo fought all the time. Have you ever watched that show, Dirty Jobs? I love that show. Well, this was the ultimate dirty job. Now, the ceiling was painted in a method called fresco, and fresco means fresh in Italian. So Michelangelo worked way up high on a platform, and he had to mix fresh plaster, wet plaster, and he would paint the plaster on the ceiling just a little bit at a time. And then he would use his pigments, his paints, and he would paint right into the plaster. Now, in a way, the painting becomes a permanent part of the ceiling. It was very messy. It was very time-consuming. It was very difficult. And if you messed up, you had to start all over again. Plus, imagine standing on a platform, tilting up all day. Some people say that he worked while painting on his back, but that's not true. He actually stood on a platform and looked up all day. There are stories that he developed muscles in his neck that made him look like a bullfrog. Well, despite all that, Michelangelo proved that he was just as talented at painting as he was at sculpture. There are over 300 people painted in this ceiling, and no two are alike, and they are so realistic. Now, this chapel is not just for visitors, but it actually serves a purpose. This is where a new pope is elected. And over 500 years, there were candles and incense burning in this chapel. And all of that smoke and debris made the ceiling very, very dull. About 30 years ago, they had it professionally cleaned. It took them a very long time, and it was very costly. But today, the colors are just as bright as they were when Michelangelo painted them. Well, I know that Mrs. Astorga has put up some interesting information on her blog about Michelangelo and the Sistine Chapel. There's nothing like seeing it in person. It truly is incredible. So I hope that someday you can come to Rome and see it for yourself. There's a lot of other art I gotta go see, and I'm getting ready to head to my next country. So you should get a video from me in a couple weeks, and I hope that you're all doing well, and I hope that you have a great day in art. So I'm gonna go have some Italian pizza. The best food ever. All right, ciao.